There we go. Namaste and welcome, everyone. It is me, Nina Sachs, with Natural Living with Nina and Yoga Awakening Africa. And today I have got Lien Vanneste from veganmealprepsunday.com. So, Lien, it is so good to see you again because it has been a while. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Nina?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. We've been meaning to, chat. We wanted to, do this interview last year, December already, and then stuff and life happened.
I
And
know. It's actually crazy to think about it now. It's been a while.
it's been a while, yeah. And we met originally when you did the Academy's yoga teacher training course. How many years ago was that now?
I did it in 2019, which was like the year before COVID, which is now our reference for everything in time, apparently. But I remember it so specifically because literally we had our graduation ceremony, and I think like the next day or 2 days later, I can't remember exactly, Cape Town was in full lockdown. So we just like made it, you know, just before
Just before.
everything shut down, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was lucky to be able to have a graduation ceremony, the fire ceremony,
Exactly.
still being all together and being able to do that. Yeah. And the course kind of like has had a lot of shifts and changes, because then all of a sudden we were like online for 2 years, and it's like, well, how do we navigate this world and way of being? So what's quite interesting now with the group that we've got like a hybrid model where we're teaching like a little bit online, a little bit in person, a little bit recorded. And that's the thing, like that's how things change with time. But we're not talking about teacher training.
Yeah.
We're actually talking about you and your journey with meal prep. So how
Yes.
about giving us a little bit of a background story? Like, how did you get into blogging? Why meal prepping? Like, because you come from a completely different realm of life and work. So maybe just give us a little bit of background to you and how you got here.
Everything kind of happened accidentally. I just like rolled into the whole thing, to be honest. So it all started in 2018 when I started sharing my meal prep journey on social media. So, life was just like really busy at the time just because, I was working, I was trying to maintain a social life as a single person at the time. I had like lots of hobbies like mountain biking, doing yoga, lots of things were going on in life. And also being single, I think also contributed to the fact that I didn't always have like the energy, or I didn't have enough motivation almost to cook for myself every single day. That's now mostly when it comes to dinner. And then when it came to lunches, I thought it was like really important to be able to eat healthy lunches on a daily basis. And I felt that that was really challenging, without having to spend a lot of money. So, and also it was also particularly challenging to always find something that I was going to enjoy that was also vegan. So I just had a lot of requirements, let's put it like that. So all of that motivated me to just start meal prepping. And I thought it would help me to be accountable by sharing my journey, basically. And I was initially like extremely consistent with that. For essentially 10 months, I would post like 3 times a week on Instagram, and I would share exactly what I would have meal prepped over the weekend. And then I would also share some recipes throughout the week. So, that's kind of like where it all started. And in those 10 months, because I was so consistent and everything, I was able to grow my account like quite fast. And that's when I also realized, there's really like interest in this, like people enjoy the content, I guess, because it grew, good. So, and then I did end up stopping though, unfortunately, with posting consistently when I started my teacher training, because my yoga teacher training, mostly because, weekends were then too busy to even like get through all the meal prepping work, especially, you know, meal prepping in and of itself is not per se that much work, but when you're trying to create high quality content around it and everything, then that takes just as much time as the meal prepping itself. So yeah, I needed to take a break basically at that time. And then during the time that I was doing my teacher training, I met my now husband, who is a software developer. And, you know, I told him, like, from the beginning of our dating journey about, you know, my experience with meal prepping and sharing it on social media. And, you know, we just talked about how I could grow that in something that would be easier to use, because, you know, when you share something on social media, it's fun and everybody gets engaged, but it's not so user-friendly, you know, for recipe sharing and all this type of thing. Plus, like, content kind of like goes to die on social media. You know, people consume it in the moment and then they never really like go back to recipes and everything. So yeah, he was the one that said you should start a blog and share your recipes that way. And he said, I can develop the blog for you, and it can be like a project that we do together. And then COVID started, and then we actually were like, oh, we really have time to do this now, because, you know, at the time we were just like living in an apartment that we were renting in town, and life was completely dead outside of work. And even especially like in my job, initially they had like reduced our working hours from like 5 days a week to 3 days a week. So, you know, I started having a little bit of time to really contribute to building this blog thing. And I guess that's it. That's where it all started.
Amazing.
This was like a really long explanation, but I mean, for full context, it needed its own story, I guess.
Yeah, no. I love the story, and it's really, really helpful. And there's a lot in there that I kind of like wanted to, or just a few things actually that I wanted to unpack. I kind of like made a couple of notes. I think like one of the things that you touched on and that you've mentioned and said was that, you know, like about having the motivation to cook, like when you're a single person, and I don't think it's just single people, like
yes.
it's hard to find the motivation to cook for yourself, because it's so easy to just go to Pick and Pay or Woolies or whatnot and grab a ready-made meal. And
yes.
Motivation, like, you know, mom with 3 kids or however many kids, whatever the story is, like every single day thinking what to cook the family for lunch and dinner. And I mean, it must get boring, especially if you're a working mom. Like, you know, I think very often just like the pasta and the sauces come out because it's easy, or the fish fingers and chips, and throw that in because the kids won't complain, and it's hard to get like a good like a nourishing meal in. So the one thing that I'm glad you touched on was like this motivation. So I think a lot of us have that dip very often with regards to motivation. And what I love about kind of like your blog, your post, your whole story, and what you're doing is kind of like you're actually building that motivation up, and you're showing people that is actually not that difficult. It doesn't need to be that difficult. So like, with that said, who inspires you, and like what is your motivation to actually get to the kitchen regularly to do your meal prepping and things like that? Because you must be like me, you know, we have our slump some days and we're not like perfect, and you know, it's yeah. So where do you find motivation, or what reminds you to keep motivated?
Okay, so that's actually, you know, a pretty big thing that I get asked about a lot, and that I do also talk about quite a lot on the blog. But, you know, when it comes to meal prepping, I really look at it like a habit. And I always recommend to people to read this book that I really love called The Power of Habit. I think it's even better than, there's this other habit book that I now can't remember the title of, but it's one that is way more popular than The Power of Habit. But I personally prefer The Power of Habit because it gives like a lot of scientific information on how you build a habit. And literally the way that I see it is that, you know, when you've done something repeatedly so many times, it just becomes a habit. Like you don't need the motivation per se anymore to do it. Like, you know, you've experienced the benefits over and over, you know, the huge amount of difference that it makes in your week. Just doing it every Sunday is just like part of anything else that you do on a daily or weekly basis. You know, like for example, you know, brushing your teeth, or I can't now think immediately of another habit, but
Well,
it literally just becomes part of your routine. And you just, in the beginning, you need like more willpower to do it on a weekly basis, because, you know, you're not used to it. It's not really part of your routine yet. But the more and more you do it, the more and more, you know, that the more it becomes just an automatic habit that you don't even really need to think about so much anymore, you know. And like the way that I kind of like break up the whole process, because, you know, it's more than just the actual cooking. When it comes to meal prep, it's about like making your menu or your meal plan for the week, doing the actual grocery shopping, and then the cooking. The way that I try to kind of like split it up to make it less overwhelming is to make my meal plan on the Friday, go shopping on a Saturday, do the meal prepping, the actual cooking on a Sunday, and it just becomes like less overwhelming. And it's just like something that you can't live without anymore at some stage, because now I just can't imagine having like busy work days and then in the middle of the work day needing to actually put like a meal together. It's something I can't almost imagine it anymore, because work gets so like hectic. And so often, like for example, just yesterday my builder came over like really last minute, because we have a project coming up, like a renovation project coming up, and we still needed to discuss a few things. So he literally like phones me at 12 telling me, okay, I'm coming now from Camps Bay, I'll be at your house in like 20 minutes to half an hour. Are you available? Can we do it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, come over. You know, so then we had a meeting. It was about an hour. After that meeting, I'm literally starving because it's already 1:30. Imagine then having to just like start cooking something. I would never be like in a healthy eating routine if I didn't have it. And for me, having a healthy eating routine is really important. So I just do it.
It's, you know, you touch on so many topics, and it feeds into a lot what you were saying before as well, that I wanted to go back to. And one of them is this idea of habits. And it's one thing that I see like in the course that I run with the members that I've got, is this idea of like habit evolution, and understanding how to build a habit, and realizing that if there's something we want to do, and like meal prep can often sound daunting and frustrating and boring, or whatever the challenges are, which we'll get into a little bit later. But like you're saying, it is just building the habit. So, and there's certain practices one can put in place to make that happen. So it's like, you know, now, like you're saying, the automated habit, like brushing teeth. No one thinks about like, should I brush my teeth in the mornings or the evenings? It just happens. And we can do that with anything that we want. And I found like if you're with people, in a group of people who do that. So if you're hanging out with friends, yoga colleagues, whatnot, anyone who is actually doing meal prepping, you are going to be more likely to do it than not. If you're going to hang out with friends who, you know, head off and go and get takeaways here, there, and everywhere, or go and, you know, if they've got a last minute meeting at lunchtime, and then we'll just grab like a muffin and a, you know, a Coke or whatnot, instead of actually having their lunchbox there ready with them. You know, that's what you're going to be doing. But if you're hanging out with people like in a community where this is normal, where it's normal to bring your lunchbooks to work, and, you know, where you've got everything organized, it is very, very different. And like you say, it's just a choice that you've made with regards to like your health and where you want to be. And it's like a non-negotiable, and therefore the habit just happens and is automated. So that is one lovely thing that I love hearing you say about, you know, the habit automation. And the other thing, which is really big to me, that I hear you kind of like talking about, is this lunch, because in Ayurveda,
Yes,
like
Ayurveda.
2 is like the pitta time, the fire time. That is where you want your biggest meal. You want to,
Yes.
you want to have it. And for working people, and constantly I get it, Arnie, I can't join your course because I can't do lunch. I can't do a big lunch. I'm working or whatnot. I just don't have the time. And it's not about that. It's actually just about getting organized for work if you are a working person, and making sure that you actually have a substantial healthy meal then, so that you don't have that sugar slump at like 3-4 o'clock, and you can actually tie yourself over to dinner. So I just wanted to say, like, I love that you talk about lunch and how important that meal is for you. So
Yes. Like that was something I always already like noticed a huge difference between like eating a proper lunch and not eating a proper lunch before I did the yoga teacher training. But you know, when I learned about Ayurveda and they explained the concepts, it just made so much sense for me. I'm like, yes, oh my God, yes. Like I was just so happy that I got really that I got like the validation that I needed almost when it comes to the importance of lunch, because it's just so crazy. So many people run on adrenaline when it comes to, you know, just being productive throughout the whole day. But it's not healthy, because the only thing that you end up achieving with that is that you come home, you're starving, and then, you know, at the end of the day, you're starving, and then you just overeat. Then your body has so much food or energy, and you have to go to bed after that. It just like doesn't make sense. It's so unnatural and counterproductive. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's really important to prioritize. If everybody, you know, people that have any health struggles, if everybody would just start by eating a proper lunch, I feel that we would resolve so many health issues already. You know, it's such a small change thing, but nobody like I see people just like eating like a yogurt or like a muffin, something that's not food, you know, that's like a snack.
yeah.
Anyway.
I'm so glad. And we could probably go on and on and on talking about this and how important it is.
Yes.
But it is such an important aspect with regards to health and life. And just living a healthy lifestyle and getting your system back into rhythm, back with like how nature intended. So I'm so glad that you bring that up. And the last thing that I want to just touch on is this idea of like accountability. So I loved how like you're, you know, creating your blog or creating your Instagram post, like that was your way of being accountable to yourself and to getting you to actually do that habit. And that's what I think a lot of people actually need. And we can chat about this in a moment as well, is kind of like how to, how can we become accountable? What do we need for ourselves to be accountable? Is it, you know, to post regularly on social media like you were doing? Is it to be part of a group? Is it to find like a buddy who you can be accountable with? So I love the fact that when it comes that you're mentioning accountability with regards to like forming a habit, creating a habit, and that is really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to do it other than what I did, you know. I don't think everybody has to per se share their journey on social media, but you know, just having an accountability partner, working in a group of other people that are also wanting to do it. Like for example, there's lots of Facebook groups that people are in that need meal prep motivation and stuff. There's so many things. You can just do it like with your husband or a friend. I don't know. There's so many ways to hold yourself accountable, but it definitely, like accountability definitely helps a lot.
Awesome. Lien, we're going to have another little chat very soon with regards to challenges that people face. So let's get to that in a moment. So thank you so much for the intro and giving us all an update on your story.
Pleasure. Thank you.